Hello, my name is Ming Schoendorf and I will be your lecturer in the Operations Fundamental course. This video has been recorded for you to help you to create a learning value in the series of Mindmap assignments. In this course, we use a lot of abstract concepts, models, theories. One of the more important overarching learning objectives is for you to become a system thinker. Now, why is it important for you to become a system thinker? You will probably work in competitive industries. The organizations that you will work for will require you, managers, leaders, to make important decisions. Decisions that involve not only one simple issue, probably a complex set of variables all interlinked, making it real challenging to come to the right decisions. Having a systematic way of looking at these interlinked aspects will provide you a cutting edge. In this video, I will illustrate how you can interlink two abstract concepts in a way that both concepts in the end will make more sense. We will use mind mapping as the tool to get to this objective. These concepts are the baseline concept in operations management, the input transformation output model, and the significant learning concept. Significant learning takes place over time. It's a growth concept. That's why in this course there is a sequence of Mindmap assignments, facilitating this growth to take place. Let me already share some important pointers for you to be successful in the Mindmap assignments. Always, before even starting working on your mind map, ask yourself and your teammates, what is it that you want the mind map to do for you? What is the purpose of this specific mind map? You need to understand and appreciate that the actual learning value is in the considerations and discussions that you have while working on your mind maps. It's hard work. This series of mind map assignments can really boost your significant learning process. Please acknowledge that the mind map assignments do require a serious time investment. You need to work on these as a team. I know that you all have busy schedules, so plan ahead. In the remainder of this video, I will illustrate how you can actually use mind mapping as a tool to integrate two abstract concepts. One, the all-important baseline model in the Operations Fundamental course, the input transformation output model, and two, the significant learning concept. By the way, significant learning is one of the important drivers under the whole curriculum here at school. It is always good to practice what we preach. So let's formulate the purpose of our mind map today. It is to set you students up for effective use of the mind map assignments in order to boost significant learning. And remember that we aim for you to become system thinkers. So let's go. Although there is no strict hierarchical order in which the 6 dimensions in significant learning take place, it is fair to say that it starts with foundational knowledge. For the purpose of this video, I will explain a little bit about the foundational knowledge on the two concepts. There's of course much more to learn about those. Let's take the cookie factory as an example. We need several ingredients for the dough. Flour, eggs, vanilla extract, you name it. We also need staff and of course an oven. The actual transformation of all kinds of ingredients into cookies takes place in a transformational process where heat is applied to the dough. The outputs are a result of all kinds of inputs interlinking with transformational processes. We need to look at this in a system way. Different configurations of the cookie dough, different recipes, would require different baking temperatures or baking times. In other words, the inputs relate to the transformational processes. We cannot see either inputs or transformational processes in isolation. As mentioned, it starts with foundational knowledge. In this course, you are required to get the foundational knowledge prior to each class by reading the chapters indicated and articles and watch videos. This is a precondition for class. Foundational knowledge is only the starting point. What good is only foundational knowledge? No, we need to apply concepts and theories in ways that we can take advantage of it. By the way, you signed up for a program at a University of Applied Science. This is what we do. Next to the application dimension, we have the integration dimension. You can think of integrating all kinds of learnings from different courses. However, in our course, we primarily focus on abstract concepts and models relating to operations management. How can you integrate these in ways that it makes sense? The first three dimensions could be considered more the hard learning dimensions. And then we have the more soft dimensions, the oil in the engine. We need those to boost the hard learning. Let's start with caring. This is about creating new interests and passions. It's very likely that you did not follow courses on operations management yet. The next dimension is learning how to learn. You are now students in higher education, and there are differences between learning in elementary school, in middle school, and in higher education. This would also require different learning methods. The last dimension is the human dimension. It's about you. But not only about you, it's also about you in relation to others. Maybe teammates working on a mind map assignment, or you living at this hotel, dealing with all kinds of challenges. The significant learning theory states that significant learning, aka deep learning, long-lasting learning, is the result of 6 learning dimensions interacting dynamically. It is not a linear process. It is a rather complex interactive process. Would you say that these concepts are rather abstract? Maybe in student terminology vague? I bet these are. So let's see how mind mapping can help you to get deeper understanding. In this illustrated example and in the series of mind map assignments, we will use Microsoft Whiteboard as the tool to create the mind maps in. So let me switch over to a whiteboard. Here we have an empty whiteboard. The whiteboards in this app are endless in size. In this series of mind map assignments, I do require you to always start with the input transformation output model. Put that centerpiece. Alright, let's create a rectangle. And you can adjust the color if you want to, but white is fine for me. So then next we put in an error. There we go. And now we're going to duplicate that error and put the duplication error over here. If we want to select the 3 objects, we can use the lasso tool. There we go. Right. And then hit duplicate and move it over to this one. If you hit the space bar and then move the cursor up, you can create a little more space. If you use the mouse wheel, you can zoom in, zoom out. There are other ways to zoom in and out as well. Okay, let's do that again. Let's create a little lasso and then hit duplicate and move it over. Okay. Let's start with this for now. It's always good to create a context in which we should appreciate your work, appreciate your mind map. How could that look like in this illustrated example? Okay, let's move this over a little bit and pick a color, a pen, and say that this is elementary school. And then next we have middle school. And here we have higher education. After higher education, let's say you are starting your professional career. It's probably fair to say that in elementary school, middle school, and higher education, different didactical concepts are applied. As mentioned, significant learning is the didactical baseline under the whole curriculum here at school. After having created a context, it's time to zoom in to significant learning. Significant learning in relation to the input transformation output model. Let's pick a different color. What would be inputs? What would transformation look like? And what would be outputs? To go short, eventually the output would be significant learning. In other words, long-lasting learning, deep learning, personal learning, right? That is what significant learning is about. What would be inputs? Would that maybe be things like foundational knowledge, chapters in a book, videos to watch? Would that maybe be some application? The skills to apply, to what extent do you have skills to apply? Would that be an input? Or the skills to integrate, abilities to integrate concepts. Would that be an input? Yes, could very well be. Would it be that caring is an important ingredient in the recipe? Having an interest? Of course it is. Right? Would it be that the ability to learn how to learn in a new educational environment? Would that be an ingredient that you need to be successful and have significant learning as a result? Yes, it would. Would it be that the human factor dimension is of importance? Yes, it would be. For instance, with the mind map assignments, you need to work in teams. Now, I know some students that have been in the course and really don't like the teamwork. Maybe it had to do that some of the teammates were not willing to put in the work. After having discussed inputs, it's time to discuss the transformational process. It's not that we're baking cookies, although we could use this metaphor, because there are serious things cooking in a learning way that will result, hopefully, in significant learning. There are inputs just like the ingredients for a dough. And there are inputs that are considered something like the oven that together will merge in a very dynamic and synergetic process into significant learning. You know what? I think we need to make one more copy of this for later use. Let's put this aside. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's talk about relevance. Relevance is important for students because without sufficient relevance, it's probably hard to motivate yourself to put in the hard work. Can we relate relevance to the 6 learning dimensions? Or at least some? I think we can. Would relevance have to do with caring, you creating new interests? And would it have to do with the human factor? What does it mean to you? Maybe also, what does it mean to you and your teammates in a mind map assignment? Would it be that a critical input be the foundational understanding, foundational knowledge? Would it be a requirement that there is at least some caring already and some human dimension as an input as well in order to get a good relevance as an output? Very likely. So what you see that in this complex synergetic transformation process, that these 6 dimensions of significant learning can be inputs and can be outputs. But over time, there is growth, there is development. The zooming into this relevance theme is just an example of the dynamic transformation from inputs into outputs that take place in significant learning. In fact, significant learning is the result of a sequence, a whole series of these little transformational processes that take place. Let's see if we can make this visible using mind mapping. Let's select the lasso tool, group these, and then make the size smaller. And then, duplicate and move this over. So like this, we overlap the arrows here. Let's do the lasso again. And duplicate and move this over. And duplicate and move this over. And now we go move the canvas and zoom out a little bit. So all kind of detailed little learning transformational processes in the end will lead up to significant learning. Hopefully, this illustration helps you to see the value of mind mapping as a visualization tool to bring 2 concepts, abstract concepts, to life. It becomes more meaningful. Let's round off this video with recapping a few important things. We would very much like you to become great system thinkers, outcompeting others because you can rule in a complex world. Mind mapping is very much about storytelling, and creating a context is a good practice. Foundational knowledge will always be the baseline in significant learning. Take that out and there is no chance for significant learning. The mind map assignments requires hard work, planning, teamwork, but it will pay off. I wish you lots of success and fun during the mind map assignments. Bye.